Why is this old man in my car? Jasmine Lewis never expected her life to change on a stormy Thursday night. The rain was coming down in violent sheets as her old Honda Civic crawled along the deserted road. Her windshield wipers screeched with every swing, barely keeping up. In the back seat, her 4-year-old daughter Zuri snored softly, wrapped in a purple blanket, her small hands gripping a stuffed bear. Jasmine was exhausted. She had just finished a double shift at the diner. Her feet ached, her mind felt foggy, and her phone had died an hour ago. All she wanted was to get home, feed her daughter, and collapse into bed. Then she saw him, right in the middle of the road, a man. She slammed the brakes. The tires squealed, the car skidded slightly, and her heart leapt into her throat. Headlights revealed a hunched figure standing motionless in the pouring rain, a thin grey coat clinging to his frail frame. His face was hidden beneath a wide-brimmed hat, and he held a crooked umbrella that looked like it could collapse any second. Jasmine sat frozen for a moment, pulse racing. Was he drunk? Homeless? Injured? Her first instinct was fear. She was alone, it was dark, and she had a child in the car. But then something about the man's posture made her frown. He looked lost, like he didn't know where he was. She rolled down her window. Halfway, sir, she called. Are you okay? He didn't move. Hello, you're in the middle of the road. Still no response. She hesitated, glancing at Zuri, then reached into the glove compartment for her small flashlight. Taking a deep breath, she stepped out into the rain, her sneakers immediately soaked. Sir, she said again, approaching slowly. Do you need help? The man finally turned his head toward her. His face was pale, lips trembling, eyes wide, and glassy like he was seeing through her. A cut ran down his temple, fresh blood mixing with the rain on his wrinkled cheek. Where's home? He asked, voice cracked and thin like paper. Jasmine's heart tightened. Were you in an accident? Did someone hurt you? No answer. He swayed on his feet. Okay, come on, let's get you out of the rain. She reached out just in time to catch him as he collapsed against her. He wasn't heavy, but the sudden weight startled her. She guided him to the car, opened the door, and helped him inside. Zuri stirred in the back seat, blinking sleepily. Mama? It's okay, baby, Jasmine whispered. Just go back to sleep. She draped Zuri's blanket over the old man, turned the heat on full blast, and took off toward the nearest hospital. The whole drive, he stared out the window in silence. When they reached the ER, 2 nurses rushed out with a wheelchair. One of them gasped when she saw the man's face. Ma'am, where did you find him? Route 59, he was just standing there. No phone, no ID, nothing. The nurses nodded and wheeled him inside. Jasmine turned to leave, but suddenly the man gripped her wrist with surprising strength. Don't leave me, he whispered, eyes pleading, her breath caught. The nurse touched his shoulder. It's okay, sir. She's just a good Samaritan. You're safe now. She's the one, he said again. Don't let her go. Jasmine shook her head slowly. I've never seen him before, but something in his eyes made her uneasy. The next morning, Jasmine returned to her routine. She dropped Zuri at daycare and went to work at the diner. She tried to forget the strange encounter. Maybe the man was just confused. Maybe it was the rain, the exhaustion, playing tricks on her. But around 10:30 a.m., a man in a black suit walked into the diner and asked for her by name. He slid into the booth across from her during break, his expression unreadable. My name's Elliot, he said. I work with Ridgewood Estates. The retirement home? He nodded. Yes, the man you helped last night. He's one of ours. Jasmine leaned forward. Is he okay? He's stable, but it's complicated. She frowned. What do you mean? He studied her. You don't know who he is, do you? She shook her head. His name is Harold Crane. He's not just some old man. He's a billionaire, founder and CEO of Crane Corp., one of the most powerful real estate tycoons in the country. Jasmine blinked. That man? Elliot nodded. He disappeared 4 days ago from our private care facility. Early onset dementia. He slipped past security. But here's what's strange. He keeps saying your name, over and over. Jasmine saved me. Jasmine is the one. She swallowed. I never told him my name. I know, Elliot said, and that's what has us very concerned. Just then, her phone, finally charged, buzzed, a new voicemail. She tapped play. The voice was faint but unmistakable. They're lying to you, Jasmine. Don't trust them. They want my money. You're the only one I can trust. She looked up at Elliot, suddenly cold. How did he get my number? Elliot frowned. We don't know. Before she could speak again, her manager called from the kitchen. Jas, there's a guy in a black SUV outside. Says you need to come with him now. Jasmine stood, heart thudding, and looked out the diner window. There it was, a black SUV with tinted windows, parked like it was watching her. Something was wrong, and Jasmine had no idea what she'd gotten herself into. You're being watched. Jasmine stared at the black SUV outside the diner window, her hands trembling slightly. The man in the suit beside her, Elliot from Ridgewood Estates, looked just as surprised. You expecting anyone? He asked cautiously. She shook her head. No, I don't even know who that is. Elliot stood and motioned for her to stay seated. Let me check it out. But as he stepped toward the door, the SUV suddenly pulled away, slowly at first, then speeding off down the block and disappearing around the corner. Elliot came back inside, jaw tight. They were watching. I don't like this. Jasmine felt her stomach twist. Who the hell are they? Elliot didn't answer right away. Instead, he sat back down and lowered his voice. Jasmine, you need to listen to me carefully. Mr. Crane's family, or what's left of it, has been trying to gain full control of his estate ever since he was diagnosed with dementia last year. I thought you said he had no family. Elliot sighed. No close family. But there are cousins, former business partners, corporate enemies, people circling like vultures. And now, he names you. She stared at him. But I don't know him. I just stopped to help a man in the rain. That's it. I believe you, he said. But you might have stepped into something deeper, something dangerous. The words hung in the air like fog. Later that day, Jasmine picked up Zuri from daycare. Her daughter was in a cheerful mood, humming a little song as she skipped beside her mother, completely unaware that anything was wrong. But Jasmine couldn't stop glancing over her shoulder. That night, she triple-locked her front door. She barely slept. The next morning, she woke to find a letter slid under her door. No envelope, just folded paper with neat, shaky handwriting. You're in danger. They want me dead. I'm safer with you. H.C. She dropped the paper like it burned. How? Had someone been at her door? She looked around her small apartment, the same one-bedroom unit she'd lived in since Zuri was born, and for the first time, it felt like a glass box, like someone could be watching from the shadows. At the hospital later that morning, Jasmine was determined to get answers. She lied her way past the front desk, saying she was a niece. She was directed to a private wing with 2 security guards stationed at the entrance. Inside, the air smelled like antiseptic and uncertainty. Harold Crane lay in a reclined hospital bed, hooked up to IVs, eyes half open. When Jasmine stepped, inside his expression lit up like a child seeing his mother. There you are, he said weakly. I knew you'd come. Jasmine stepped closer. Why me? Why do you keep saying my name? His eyes were clearer than before. Not sharp, but not lost either. I don't know. But I feel like I know you. You're safe. Mr. Crane, I don't know you. I have a daughter. I work 2 jobs. I'm nobody. No, he whispered. You were the only one who didn't ask me who I was. You just helped. Everyone else, they only want pieces of me. He suddenly sat up straighter. I wrote something down. Look in the bag. On the table beside him was a small leather briefcase. She hesitated, then opened it. Inside, a notebook, a flash drive, and a small, crumpled photo. The photo was old, faded. A little girl, maybe 5 years old, smiling next to a woman who looked familiar, too familiar. Jasmine's breath caught in her throat. It was her mother, younger, before the cancer. The little girl was her. "What is this?" she whispered. Harold smiled softly. "Your mother was kind to me once, long ago. I didn't forget." Jasmine backed up. "Wait, you knew my mother?" He nodded. "She worked in a hotel I once stayed in. I had just lost my wife. Everyone ignored me, but she brought me soup and silence. I never forgot that face." Tears welled in Jasmine's eyes. "She passed when I was 10. "I know," he said quietly. "I read the notice. I remembered her name. And when I saw your face the other night, it was like seeing her again." Jasmine was speechless. Then he leaned forward and whispered, "They're trying to declare me incompetent. If they succeed, everything goes to them. But I've already changed my will. You'll find it on that flash drive." Her heart stopped. "What?" "I want my money to go to someone who helped without asking for anything, just like your mother did, just like you did." "Mr. Crane, I don't want your money." "I know," he smiled. "That's exactly why I'm giving it to you." Just then the door burst open. 3 men in suits entered. One of them looked furious. "Mr. Crane," one snapped, "you're not authorized to have visitors. Ms. Lewis, I suggest you leave immediately." Harold growled, "Don't talk to her like that." The man turned to Jasmine with a fake smile. "We'll take it from here." She clutched the flash drive tighter. Before leaving, Harold gripped her hand one last time. "Don't let them twist this," he whispered. "They'll try. But the truth is in that drive." As Jasmine stepped into the hallway, her phone buzzed again. Unknown number, a new text appeared. "Return what he gave you, or your daughter's next." Jasmine's blood went cold. She looked down the hall. No one. She looked back at Harold's. "Odor." And suddenly everything was different. She wasn't just helping a stranger anymore. She was in the middle of a war she never asked for. But they had made one mistake. They threatened her daughter, and Jasmine would burn the world down before she let anything happen to Zuri. "If you want to scare me, don't mention my daughter." Jasmine stood frozen in the sterile hallway, eyes glued to the phone screen. "Return what he gave you, or your daughter's next." A chill ran down her spine. Her fingers tightened around the flash drive in her coat pocket like it was the only thing keeping her grounded. Around her, hospital staff moved like shadows, unaware that Jasmine Lewis's world had just tilted. She forced herself to move, walking fast but not running. She stepped into the elevator, heart pounding with each passing floor. As soon as the doors closed, she gripped the handrail and whispered, "God, please keep Zuri safe." The elevator dinged. She sprinted out of the hospital and jumped into her car, dialing the daycare as she drove. Tiny steps, learning. "This is Denise." "It's Jasmine." "Is Zuri okay?" There was a pause. "Yes, honey, she's fine, out back painting on the wall." "Why?" Jasmine let out a shaky breath. "Don't let anyone near her. I'm coming right now. Please keep her inside and stay alert." "Wait, Jasmine, what's going on?" But Jasmine had already hung up. 20 minutes later, she burst through the daycare gate. Zuri was there, safe and laughing, her tiny hands smeared with blue paint. Jasmine swept her into her arms and hugged her so tight the little girl squealed. "Mama, I'm okay." "I know, baby," Jasmine whispered into her curls. "I just needed to see you." Back at home, Jasmine locked the doors and pulled all the blinds. She poured herself a glass of water, hands shaking, and stared at the flash drive on the table. Whatever was on it was dangerous enough to make rich men send threats. She slid it into her old laptop and waited. A folder popped up. Personal estate files. H. Crane. Inside were dozens of documents, scanned bank records, emails, legal statements, and a newly written will. It was real. His signature dated 2 days before he vanished, and her name, Jasmine Lewis, listed as the sole beneficiary of over $640 million in property, stocks, and trusts. She leaned back in shock. "No, no, no," she whispered. "This is too much. This is insane." But as she scrolled further, something caught her eye, a memo sent from one of Crane Corp's legal advisors. Subject: fast-track guardianship and forced mental evaluation. If Harold does not show signs of mental incompetency, escalate through Plan B. Asset access is crucial by Q3. Jasmine's hand flew to her mouth. They were planning to have him declared mentally unfit just to take his fortune. And they weren't. Going to wait around, they had a plan, and now she was in the way. That night, Jasmine didn't sleep. She sat at the kitchen table, laptop open, notebook in front of her. Zuri slept in her room, door locked, nightlight glowing. At 2 a.m., her phone buzzed again. "Unknown number. We warned you. Last chance, come alone. Location will follow." Seconds later, a pin dropped on her phone, a warehouse on the outskirts of town. She stared at it, pulse hammering. They wanted her to bring the flash drive, but they said come alone. She looked at the closed door of Zuri's room, then back at the screen. No, she wasn't walking into this blind. She called the only person she thought might help, Elliot. It rang once, twice. Then, "Hello? It's me," Jasmine whispered. "I think they're going to kill me." Elliot was silent for a moment. "Tell me everything." She explained the text, the threat, the location. "I'm coming with you," he said. "No, if they see you—" "Jasmine," he interrupted gently. "Harold's not the only one they're trying to erase. You're a witness now. They won't stop until you're silent. I can't let that happen." She hesitated, then nodded even though he couldn't see. "Fine, but we meet somewhere safe first. I know just the place." Half an hour later, they met at a 24-hour laundromat across town. Jasmine wore a hoodie and sunglasses, flash drive hidden in her sock. Zuri stayed with Denise from the daycare, asleep on the couch with cartoons playing in the background. Denise had promised to keep her safe, no matter what. Elliot looked more tired than she remembered. "You sure you want to go through with this?" Jasmine's jaw clenched. "They mentioned my daughter. That was their mistake." He nodded, then pulled out a small wire. "Wear this. It'll record everything, and I'll be listening nearby." She hesitated, then clipped it under her hoodie. "Let's end this." The warehouse was dark, isolated and silent. Jasmine stepped out of her car slowly, heart slamming against her ribs. Inside the building, only a few weak lights flickered. Above, she pushed open the rusted door and entered. 3 men stood inside. One of them, the one from the hospital who had stormed in earlier, stepped forward. "You've caused quite the mess, Ms. Lewis." "Where's your threat now?" she asked. "You said my daughter was next." "That's low, even for a vulture like you," he smirked. "Return the flash drive, walk away, you'll live. That's generous considering." "And what happens to Mr. Crane?" He shrugged. "He'll be moved, properly medicated. He won't even remember you." She took a deep breath. "Too bad," she said, "because I remember everything." She pulled out her phone and hit play. The recording of their entire conversation, threats and all, blasted from her speaker. The men tensed. "That's a mistake," the leader growled. "Not as big as the next one," came a voice behind. "Them." Elliot stepped out of the shadows, holding his phone, still recording, with a red blinking light. Behind him, 2 officers from the city's white-collar crimes unit, badges raised. "You're all under investigation for fraud, Elder. Abuse and conspiracy to defraud a mentally impaired person." Panic broke across their faces. One tried to run. "Go ahead," Jasmine said coldly. "Let's see how that ends." 10 minutes later, the men were cuffed and in police custody. Jasmine sat in her car, trembling. Not from fear now, but from relief. Elliot handed her back the flash drive. "You did good. You saved him." "No," she whispered. "I just did what was right." He nodded. "That's exactly why Harold trusted you." Jasmine looked up at the stars. Tomorrow would be different. She didn't want a fortune. She wanted freedom, and no one was going to take that from her or her daughter ever again. From headlines to heartbreak. By the next morning, Jasmine's name was on every news channel. Single mom exposes billionaire conspiracy. Harold Crane's secret beneficiary is a waitress from Southside. Dark secrets of Crane family finally revealed. Her phone wouldn't stop buzzing. Reporters crowded outside her apartment complex. Neighbors peeked through blinds. Friends from high school, people who had ignored her for years, suddenly remembered her number. Zuri stayed home that day, curled up on Jasmine's lap while cartoons played in the background. "Mommy, why is the TV saying your name?" Jasmine kissed her daughter's forehead. "Because Mommy helped someone, and some people didn't like that." Zuri nodded, unfazed, her world still innocent and safe. But Jasmine knew life would never be the same again. Meanwhile, Harold Crane was transferred from the hospital to a private medical estate under court protection, where he could no longer be silenced or moved without a judge's order. The documents Jasmine had handed over, including the recorded threats, were airtight. The people who had tried to exploit him now faced federal charges, but Jasmine's role wasn't over yet. That afternoon, Elliot called. "You need to come downtown." "Why?" "They're reading the will, officially." Inside the wood-paneled conference room, Jasmine sat at a long table surrounded by suits and tension. Cameras had been banned, but the pressure still crackled in the air like lightning. Harold sat in a wheelchair at the head of the table, fragile but aware. When Jasmine walked in, his face lit up like a summer sunrise. "You made it," he whispered. "I wouldn't miss it." An attorney stood and cleared his throat. "After thorough verification, and despite prior attempts to manipulate the estate, we are confirming the validity of Harold Crane's most recent legal testament." He opened the document. "The majority of Mr. Crane's fortune, including real estate, liquid assets, and intellectual property, will be transferred to—" He looked up. "Ms. Jasmine Lewis." A collective gasp echoed. Jasmine felt her chest tighten. She wasn't shocked anymore, but hearing it said out loud made it feel heavy, real, and terrifying. She looked to Harold. He simply smiled. "I told you," he said. "I don't forget. The ones who remind me what humanity looks like." One of the former company executives slammed a fist on the table. "This is absurd." "She's nobody." Harold turned to him, suddenly sharp. "She's somebody to me, and that's all that matters." The room went silent. By evening, Jasmine's name trended online for the third day in a row. Some praised her, a real-life hero. Proof that kindness still wins. Others mocked her. Gold digger strikes jackpot. Just lucky at the right time. But Jasmine didn't care about the noise. What did hurt was what came next. That night, someone posted a video from Jasmine's past, security camera footage from a grocery store 2 years ago. She'd taken a small bag of diapers and formula and walked out without paying. She had been desperate. Zuri had been sick. Jasmine had been broke. She had never been caught until now. The video spread like wildfire. Comments turned vicious. So much for a hero. Criminal, not caretaker. "She doesn't deserve a cent," Jasmine sat on the floor, staring at the screen, her heart cracking open. Elliot called. "Don't say a word to anyone, don't apologize, let this pass." But she knew it wouldn't, not unless she faced it head-on. The next morning, Jasmine called a press conference. Dozens of reporters showed up, expecting silence or denial. Instead, Jasmine stood at the podium, dressed plainly, her voice calm but steady. "You all want the truth? Fine. 2 years ago, I stole a $12 bag of diapers and a $9 bottle of baby formula. I had no money. I was working 3 shifts a week. My daughter had a fever, and I made a decision I'm not proud of. Flashes went off like fireworks. I didn't do it for greed. I did it for love, and I never told anyone because I was ashamed. But if that moment disqualifies me from helping Harold Crane or being a good mother, then maybe the problem isn't just with me. Maybe it's with the system that forces women like me to choose between hunger and handcuffs." The room fell silent. Then one person clapped, then another, and another. Soon the room erupted in applause. She walked off stage, head held high. Later, back at home, Harold called her directly. "You did what I never could," he said. "What's that? Tell the truth, and survive it." They were quiet for a long moment. Then he added softly, "I'm proud of you, Jasmine, not because you took care of me, but because you never once gave up on your daughter, even when the world gave up on you." Jasmine covered her eyes, holding back tears. "Thank you." That night, while tucking Zuri into bed, her daughter whispered, "Mommy, are we rich now?" Jasmine smiled. "We're safe now, baby. That's what matters." Zuri grinned and hugged her. "I like that better." And as Jasmine lay in bed that night, staring up at the ceiling, she realized for the first time in years she didn't feel afraid of tomorrow. She felt ready for it. Whatever came next, she had already won something greater than money. She had won back her voice, her dignity, and her future, the price of becoming somebody. 2 weeks later, Jasmine stood in the middle of the Crane estate, barely able to believe she lived there now. Marble floors, crystal chandeliers, rooms bigger than her old apartment. It was all hers now, but it didn't feel like hers. She still cooked breakfast, in the same old pan she'd used for years. She still checked on Zuri twice a night. And she still carried that flash drive in her coat pocket, as if it were a part of her. The world saw her as a miracle headline, but inside she felt like a woman learning to breathe again. Harold was improving. With proper care and no more sedatives forced on him, his memory was sharpening. One day, while sitting with Jasmine on the patio, he leaned forward. "You know why I gave it all to you?" She smiled gently. "Because you said I was kind." He nodded. "That's part of it. But more. And than that, you reminded me of my mother. She was a maid, too, cleaned rich people's homes and still found time to teach me right from wrong." He looked out at the garden. "She told me once, if you ever have more than you need, pass it on, but not to the loudest voice. Give it to the one who would never ask, but would give it all away if she could." That was you. Jasmine felt her throat tighten. "Harold, I didn't save you for your money." He reached for her hand. "I know that, and that's exactly why you deserve every cent." But not everyone agreed. 3 days later, Jasmine received a letter from Harold's estranged grandson, Mason Crane, a slick, grinning man who hadn't visited his grandfather once in 10 years. "You might hold the deed now, Ms. Lewis, but I hold the Crane name. Let's make a deal, or things will get very uncomfortable for you very quickly." Jasmine read the letter 3 times. Then she burned it. She didn't want war, but she wasn't going to be bullied ever again. Still, wealth brought shadows. At Zuri's new school, parents whispered behind Jasmine's back, "She doesn't belong here. I heard she used to steal diapers." Even at the grocery store, people stared. Some smiled, some sneered, and then one evening a woman approached her in the parking lot. "Hey, Jasmine, right?" She nodded, cautious. "I just wanted to say thank you. I'm a single mom too. Saw your press conference. You said what we all feel but are too scared to say." Jasmine blinked. The woman handed her a crumpled note. "My son has asthma. I can't afford the medication. If there's anything you can do." She walked away before Jasmine could speak. Jasmine sat in her car for 20 minutes, staring at the note. That night, she couldn't sleep, because Harold hadn't just left her money. He'd left her responsibility. A week later, Jasmine walked into a downtown law firm and opened something new. The Zuri Foundation, a non-profit named after her daughter, dedicated to supporting struggling single parents with emergency aid, education, and childcare. Elliot, Now her legal advisor helped her set up the trust. "You know this means giving away millions, right?" he asked. Jasmine smiled. "Harold didn't give it to me to hoard it. He gave it to me to use it," Elliot nodded. "You've changed a lot." "No," she said. "I just finally have the power to be who I was meant to be." But change came with a cost. At night, Zuri started asking different questions. "Why? Don't you pick me up from school anymore? Why do people want to take pictures of me all the time? Why did my friends say you're only rich because you're lucky?" One night, Jasmine sat her down. "Baby, sometimes when you help people, not everyone understands it. But you know what matters?" Zuri tilted her head. "What?" "That you stay true, that you stay kind, and that you never forget where you came from." Zuri nodded slowly. "Can I help too?" Jasmine blinked. "Help with what?" "With the foundation. Maybe I can draw the flyers?" Jasmine smiled, tears stinging her eyes. "You already are helping, baby." But while Jasmine built something real, Mason Crane had other plans. One morning, news broke that Harold's will was being contested. Mason had filed a lawsuit, claiming Jasmine manipulated a mentally declining old man into changing his will. And worse, a fake video began circulating online, heavily edited clips of Jasmine helping Harold in the diner, spliced with her old shoplifting footage, framed to look like a setup. She was painted as a fraud. "Don't worry," Elliot assured her. "We have enough evidence to crush this." But Jasmine didn't look worried. She looked tired. "I'm not afraid of the court," she said. "I'm afraid of becoming the person they think I am. Someone who takes instead of gives." Elliot studied her. "You think you've changed?" She looked out the window, where two homeless teens were crouched beside the estate wall. "No," she said softly, "but I think the world wants me to." The court date was set. In 3 weeks, Jasmine would have to defend not only her right to Harold's fortune, but her character, her choices, and her past. The entire city would be watching, and Jasmine had a decision to make: fight for the money or walk away from it all. But one thing was clear. She was no longer that woman crying in a grocery store parking lot with $12 worth of stolen diapers. She was Jasmine Lewis, and now the whole world would know what that name meant. Her name meant something. The courtroom was packed. Reporters lined the back wall. Jasmine sat at the plaintiff's table, dressed simply. No jewelry, no designer labels, just quiet strength. Elliot sat beside her, a stack of evidence folders at his elbow. Across the aisle, Mason Crane sat with a smirk, surrounded by 3 high-powered lawyers. He wore the smugness of someone born in boardrooms, not built through hardship. The judge entered. "All rise." Jasmine stood tall. She wasn't here just to defend money. She was here to defend her story, her truth, her name. Mason's lawyers went first. Their argument was cold and clinical. Ms. Lewis had access to Mr. Crane during a medically vulnerable time. She encouraged his isolation, gained his trust, and conveniently inherited everything just weeks before his health crisis. They played the spliced video, the same one that made Jasmine out to be a schemer. "She's not family," the lawyer sneered. "She was a waitress who saw an opportunity." Jasmine didn't flinch. She didn't even blink. She had heard worse. Then Elliot rose. He projected the real footage, the full unedited clips. It showed Jasmine helping Harold stand, feeding him when he trembled, laughing with him as he told jokes, defending him when his family ignored his calls. Elliot's voice was clear and unwavering. Mr. Crane was not manipulated. He was rescued, he was heard, and for the first time in decades, he was treated like a human being. Harold, sitting in his wheelchair behind them, raised his hand. "Your Honor, may I speak?" The judge nodded. Harold's voice cracked but carried weight. I may be old, but I'm not a fool. My grandson didn't lose an inheritance. He lost my trust. Long ago. Jasmine didn't take anything from me. She gave me something no one else did." The courtroom was silent. Dignity. Later that evening, after 2 tense hours of deliberation, the judge returned. "This court finds the most recent will of Mr. Harold Crane valid and enforceable. The claims of undue influence are hereby dismissed." The gavel struck. The courtroom burst into chatter, but Jasmine stayed frozen. She wasn't smiling, she wasn't celebrating, she was just relieved. For once in her life, the truth had actually won. That night, she didn't attend the press parties or answer media calls. Instead, she took Zuri to their favorite taco stand. They sat on a curb, paper plates on their laps, just like old times. "Mommy," Zuri said between bites, "are we going back to the mansion now?" Jasmine looked up at the stars. "No. No. We're going home," Zuri frowned. "But the mansion was never home." Jasmine smiled. The next morning, Jasmine called Elliot. "I want to give it up." He paused. "The money?" "No. Not all of it, but the house, the board seats, the lifestyle. That part of the world, it's not me." "What will you do?" "I'll keep what we need. Use the rest to grow the foundation. Build real things for real people." Elliot was quiet for a beat. Then he said, "I've seen hundreds of people inherit wealth, Jasmine. You're the only one who seems to know exactly what to do with it." In the months that followed, Jasmine's impact echoed far beyond Harold Crane's empire. The Zuri Foundation opened its first transitional housing center for single parents. She started scholarships for women coming out of shelters, and she partnered with hospitals to create emergency childcare clinics for working mothers. People didn't just remember her story now, they believed in it, and in her. 1 year later, Jasmine stood on a simple stage at a city gala. The mayor introduced her. She didn't inherit a fortune, she inherited a mission. Applause erupted. Zuri stood in the front row, clapping louder than anyone. Jasmine stepped to the mic. "I used to think I needed a miracle to change my life," she said. "But sometimes life gives you a broken stranger, a tired heart, and a choice." She looked out over the crowd. "Kindness is not weakness, it's courage. And I hope every little girl out there watching knows you don't need money to be powerful. You just need to remember who you are." Tears shimmered in more eyes than one. Afterward, Harold, now walking slowly with a cane, joined her on stage. "You know," he said quietly, "my father used to say, your name means something only when you live in a way that honors it." Jasmine smiled. "And now yours does," he added. "No," she said softly. "Now ours does." They stood side by side, two people from opposite worlds, united by something bigger than blood. Hope, redemption, and the belief that even a stranger's smallest act of kindness can change everything. The end.